We've all experienced that moment. Pulling off the freeway, or maybe in a busy intersection, and you pull up next to a homeless man holding a cardboard sign. There's that feeling, that pang deep inside. Now, we may react differently to that sensation. Different feelings might bubble up: embarrassment, anger, annoyance, guilt. But we all feel that initial spark, that feeling when one human sees another human in need or in pain. I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. Just as you did to the least of these, you did to me. These words, they ring out like a clarion call. I've seen people come up with some creative solutions to this awkward encounter. There are those who give money. There are those who do not give money because goodness knows what they will spend it on. Probably drugs or alcohol. I mean, they are homeless, right? They must make bad decisions. I've seen people make snack packs or stock up on gift cards. I've had moments where all of a sudden I become very interested on whatever is on the radio. It occurs to me I need to switch the channel, or I remember I need to call my mom. I should do that right now. Anything to get out of that uncomfortable moment, those uncomfortable feelings. In our text this morning, I love how both groups are totally shocked at Jesus' assessment. When Jesus turns to the first group and lists all the times that they cared for the least of these, which Jesus reveals as himself, they were like, "What? When? Are you sure? Because I'm pretty sure I would remember that." And when Jesus turns to the second group and lists all of the times that they abandoned those in need, you can almost hear them unable to censor themselves in the shock of the big reveal. What? That kid on the side of the road who needed food? That was you? Jesus, I totally would have given him food if I knew that was you. Like many of the stories in the gospel, yet again, we have these unexpected twists and turns that Jesus uses to try and shake people up, shake them free of their complacency. They're so commonplace now, so a part of our everyday culture. We read the text and we lose that upside down surprise reveal. We hear it today the opposite of how they would have heard it back then. Of course the person in need is Jesus. Obviously, you should have known. And even though we know the ending, even though we've been raised in a culture telling us since we were little kids how important it is to care for those in need, it feels like a fresh reminder for me. I should have known. For those who are suffering right now in our own community, those who've lost their job, who are struggling with depression through the holidays, I should have known. There are literally so many countries who have refugees fleeing their homes, it's being called a refugee crisis. Afghanistan, Nigeria, Somalia, South Sudan, Syria. I should have known. Their suffering is also Jesus' suffering. And yet there's so much more to this passage than just a reminder to care for those in need. There are a lot of places that teach this lesson, that remind us. The church has not cornered the market on morality. Actually, the church could use a little bit more reminders on morality. The Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts are great places to learn about civic duty and to learn how to tie some awesome knots. My dad actually passed some of that Boy Scout knowledge down to me. I'm sure he'd be very proud to know that from time to time, I can hear in my mind with great clarity, always leave a place better than you found it. If you want to volunteer, There are countless organizations, Habitat for Humanity, for example, where you can make a real impact on those who are suffering. There are organizations that are even better at raising money. Rotary International has almost single-handedly eradicated polio, well, reduced it to 99.9%. And they're still working on it, by the way. I've seen firsthand they are no slouches when it comes to raising money. In addition to all their fundraisers and dues, they even have a designated person whose job it is to come up with additional fines for individual accomplishments or fun. It's called the Fine Master. I don't know, maybe we should have one here. But we don't even need organizations or clubs or even beliefs to teach us to do the right thing, to help people when they are in need or in pain, right? You can be an atheist and be a good person. But when you strip all that away, when it's just you, face to face with another person who's in need, when we all have that feeling, no matter how fleeting, no matter how quickly we want to avoid or cover it up or disguise it, it's there. And it's there because it is that part of us, that piece inside of us, that is made in the likeness of God. We are all made in the image of God. That nagging feeling, that inner spark, it's calling us to live into a deeper, more full expression of who we are meant to be. And what we find when we really sit with this text and let all of its uneasiness settle in around us is that Jesus isn't telling his disciples to love and care for those in need because it's the right thing to do. He's not even saying, go and love your neighbor because I love you. Jesus is saying, go and care for those around you who are weak and hungry and marginalized and passed over and ignored because I am that person. Jesus is saying, want to know what God looks like? Want to see God for yourself? Then look into the face of someone who is in need, and there you will find the face of God. Jesus knew something about that connection we have, the connection between God and us, the connection we have towards one another. Jesus was pointing to that truth when he said these words. It's easy to be overwhelmed by the need out there in this world. And I can honestly relate to the urge to want to pull the covers over my head and binge watch the next season of Stranger Things. But Jesus didn't say we had to solve all of the problems of the world or meet all of the needs around us. Jesus said that when we encounter another person, when we look into their eyes, we need to see them as they truly are, not for their mistakes, but for their humanity. It is one thing to give someone $1 because I have lots of dollars and they have no dollars, which, by the way, is still a good thing. Don't get me wrong. But as Christians, we have an opportunity to give $1 or to fight systems of oppression because it is our calling, because it is a part of our original design. It is our way of being God's hands and feet in this world. And when we do that, when we act as God's hands and feet, when we let ourselves truly look upon the other person, not in pity, but in love, we allow ourselves to be transformed by that interaction. Then we become able to give that $1 not for praise or credit, not because we're seeking something in return, not because there are some kind of assurances that they will spend that $1 wisely or make better choices with it than even if we would when we are homeless. But in that moment, we are both equals in the eyes of God. So let us take a moment to think of how we might be transformed by the words of our scripture this morning. To think of how God might be working in you to be a vessel of love and compassion for those around us. For that is when we get to see the face of God. Praise be to God.